Hello, my friends, and welcome to the single button assistant guide for Holy Paladin. It is a work in progress. This is pre-patch. This will likely be updated once midnight releases, but I do believe I found a pretty good spot for a pretty complicated class, especially when it comes to a fairly underwhelming healing class currently. I will say that this is a little bit more legwork needed compared to Mistweaver and Discipline Priest, but certainly viable for someone looking to get into Holy Pally to see if it's something that they like. Let's go ahead and talk about the build. The build is a lightsmith build. It really focuses on Blessing of the Forge. Blessing of the Forge. Basically, the way that this build works is your damage builds holy power, and your holy power is spent by holy shock. Your holy shock can either be used to deal damage, or it can be used to heal an ally. The nice thing about this particular build is it tries to do both pretty much passively. So as always with all of my builds, one of the things that we have to make sure that we have on is the mouse overcast. Mouse overcast is important because if you do have to heal, which you will, you want to make sure that you're able to like hover over people instead of clicking on them and then clicking on your heal. Another thing that's important for anybody that's ever played Resto Shaman with like the life-giving weapon, we do have something that's about the same called Rite of Sanctification. So simply clicking this and applying it to your weapon will apply. You can go ahead and read it right there. Imbues your weapon with the power of the light, increasing your armor by 5% and your primary stats by 2% for an hour. This does persist through death. You'll notice with my gear, this guy is extremely low. My Paladin wasn't played much in Season 2. So this is pretty much Season 1 gear, a little bit of Season 2 gear, and I do have a Season 3 weapon. And I do have my my Rishi wrap, so nowhere stat correct. So please take that into consideration. As always, the numbers that we're looking for here in the HPS or the healing per second meter is you really want to be around 20 to 30k to be considered a viable healer in all of this pre-patch content. Again, I do believe with current gear that this may actually outdo the Mistweaver Monk. I don't think it's going to touch the Discipline Priest, but let's go ahead and talk about how simplistic and why this is so fun. I do believe that this build would be perfect for Mythic Plus, certainly viable for raiding. I did do it in some heroic raiding, and I didn't have a whole lot of trouble keeping up with the mid-level tier healers. I certainly am not going to be beating Discipline Priest or Resto Shaman or Resto Druid with this build, but it is a very viable build one way or another, and maybe some of that had to do with how poorly I'm geared currently. So again, let's get into how this works. You'll notice right away that I have some beacons that are shining. This is why Paladin works well, especially in Mythic Plus. Excuse me, I had to adjust my seat a little bit. The reason why this works is because I'm going to put this on, let's say we're in raid. We're going to put this on tank number 1. There's the first beacon, and there's the second beacon. I'm not going to get into it too much, but a part of my damage goes to these two targets as healing. Part of my healing goes to these two targets as healing. So the nice thing is you really shouldn't have to heal anybody with the beacon. They will be being healed. So you should be focusing on the rest of your group, yourself, or the rest of the raid. The Holy Bulwark part is a little weird. Currently, I'm trying to figure out a good way to use this, but without getting it too complicated. If you use it, you're going to put a shield on pretty much everyone that's kind of temporary. It's like a burst healing. And then you're going to do a little bit more damage, a little bit more healing during this while this is going off. Again, I'm not going to overcomplicate it, but the build does work extremely well with building holy power. I will say that Avenging Wrath is like your big 2-minute cooldown. This is like you're going absolute ham mode. I like to use this at the beginning of the fight during lust phases. I like to use this during ramp ups. 2 minutes, you're probably going to use it only about twice a fight, 3 if you're lucky. So use it sparingly, but use it wisely, and you try to use it 2 times per fight as far as raid bosses go. So let's go ahead and get into what buttons do we actually use. Which ones don't we use? Your Holy Shock is actually a part of your damage rotation. And what I found works really well is while the damage rotation is going on, if you can pretend that you have your raid frames over here, I actually just hover over people that need health, and when Holy Shock comes up, they just get a little bit of health. It works extremely well. It's very passive, and you can basically just hold on to your damage button which is linked to the side of my mouse, and kind of just passively heal people with Holy Shock. Now that's obviously not going to be enough to keep you up on the meters, so how else do you use your Holy Power? Because you don't want to sit here capped on Holy Power. I will say that the key has always pretty much been for Holy Pally, positioning. What do I mean by that? Your heals go out, Light of Dawn goes out at a 45-degree angle. So if I'm standing like this and I use my Light of Dawn, if I use my Light of Dawn, all of these characters in front of me are going to be hit with a good amount of healing. If I'm like this, well, now you notice that I'm only getting maybe this guy, for sure this one. So you always want to make sure that when you're attacking the raid boss, if you will, or the boss if you can, as long as it doesn't put you in harm's way, what I like to do is honestly be behind the boss and cast heals forward so that you're healing as many people as possible. But let's go ahead and just make a little bit of Holy Power, and so we could talk about how to use your Holy Power. Here's your meter right here for your Holy Power. You only need 3 for any of these, but Holy Word Glory, for some reason, and I haven't figured it out quite yet, when you use Holy Word Glory, it just comes back a lot faster. I don't know why Light of Dawn takes a lot longer to use than Holy Word Glory, but you would swear when you're using it that this only needs 2 and this one needs 3. But, so the 2 different ways that you can heal is if a couple people need health, what you're going to do is you're going to, use your macro to build up some Holy Power. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hover over somebody that needs it, and I'm going to hit 2. And that Word of Glory is a pretty big heal. I mean, it's 5,700, and the healing spreads. And again, another important part is you got to remember this guy here has a beacon, this guy up here has a beacon. So me healing this guy also healed these 2. The primary guy will get more healing than the secondary guy, but you get the idea. So what we're going to go ahead and do is try really hard not to heal these 2 tanks unless you absolutely need it. But we are going to use our healing as such. Now, as a paladin, you do need to be right on top of the boss, so you really don't have a lot of opportunities to be, back here for a lot of your stuff. But you can use your Light of Dawn, cast everything in front of you. But honestly, if you can, I would try to use Holy Word Glory as much as you possibly can. A thing that you may be seeing happening right now is it's using my Holy Shock on pretty much nothing. So what I should be doing is hovering over people like this, and you'll see that big 1,300 cast. There's a 2,100 cast. That's Holy Word Shock. That's not me casting anything. It's just that I'm hovering over these nameplates because of that built-in part of WoW. So this works pretty well, but again, you can't just sit here and do nothing else with your Holy Power. So if you're in a big raid and you're taking, your team's taking a considerable amount of damage, what I would honestly suggest is positioning yourself so that you can get most everybody healed and just hover over people that need health, but then spam 3. Use your Holy Power as often as you possibly can. If that's up, you should be using it. Truthfully, your Holy Shock's gonna heal whoever needs it. And then it's up to you to figure out, is it going to be a number 2 to get 2 button, excuse me, I know Novo just chuckled, to get a pop heal on someone, which does spread healing elsewhere, or do you need a big AoE heal that may not heal an individual too much, but it's certainly a better AoE heal than anything else. That's a decision point up to you. I will say that you're going to be using Holy Word Glory more often than you're going to be using Light of Dawn. It just hits harder, and because of both of them using the same and both of them using the same amount of mana, it's kind of a big point just to go ahead and use Word of Glory. And then Word of Glory feeds into your Holy Shocks, and they just synergize really well. All right, now you'll see that while I've been talking and rambling that my numbers aren't that great, right? So let's go ahead and give an example of what it would look like if we were actually trying. So we're going to go ahead and clear all of the data. Hopefully we don't have any residual healing going on here. Okay, I think we are clear. So now what I want to do is I'm gonna pull off Rip with Avenging Wrath, which builds Holy Power significantly faster. Your judgments will do a lot more damage, and your haste is increased by a significant amount. I'm also going to cast Holy Bulwark, which also turns into a Holy Sword, I believe is what it's called, but probably not. There's a shield and a sword. And I do believe that there's a benefit to sticking to each one of them, but at this current point, I don't fully understand that mechanic, just being honest with you. So I'm just basically popping it on cooldown, which I have noticed just spreads a lot of healing around plus bubbles. So let's go ahead and get into a countdown. It's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're going to go with Avenging Wrath right off the bat. And then we're going to use Bulwark, and you see that just did a ton of healing, right? And I'm spending my heals, using it again, and I'm just hovering over this one ally right now that has it's probably a warlock with rushing feet stuck on, just taking considerable amount of damage. And you'll see my numbers are actually pretty good, 60k, and I'm not really going down any. I mean, and I'm not really doing anything else. All I'm doing is spamming my AoE in the front and just letting Holy Shock do its thing. So this is a pretty hands-off build, and I really do believe that if you built it correctly and you stuck with it, this might be slept on. So don't be afraid to use your Holy Pally, and I hope this helps, and have fun.